Nisha Kapoor was the kind of girl who caught attention the moment she entered a room. With her glossy hair, branded clothes, and confident stride, people often assumed she had it all together. But beneath her polished exterior, there were shadows, habits she had carefully hidden, habits that were slowly tightening their grip around her life. At 21, she was the darling of her college. Her Instagram stories painted a picture of wild parties, midnight drives, endless shopping, and a life every girl seemed to envy. Yet very few knew that behind her perfect social media life, she was falling deeper into a web spun by her own bad habits. The beginning of the spiral. It all started small. A cigarette after class just to feel cool. A few drinks at a party just to blend in. Sneaking out at night because her strict parents never allowed late outings. None of it felt dangerous at first. She would often laugh with her friends and say, "Life is too short to be boring." But bad habits have a way of growing roots. What began as occasional turned into routine. The girl who once excelled in academics now skipped lectures. The daughter who once promised her parents she'd make them proud now lied almost daily. Her best friend, Ananya, often warned her, "Nisha, you're losing yourself. This isn't the same girl who used to dream of becoming a fashion designer." Nisha would roll her eyes. "Stop being dramatic. I know what I'm doing." But in truth, she didn't. The thrill of rebellion. The thrill of doing things she wasn't supposed to became addictive. She started sneaking alcohol into her hostel room. Sometimes she gambled with friends at secret cafes. At first, she won small amounts, but when she lost, she borrowed money without telling her parents. Lying became second nature. She lied to teachers about assignments, to her parents about expenses, and even to herself about how in control she was. Every bad habit she picked up seemed to promise freedom, but slowly it was chaining her spirit. The mask cracks. One evening, Nisha was returning from a late-night party. Her parents thought she was at her friend Ananya's house working on a project. As she stumbled into her hostel, slightly drunk, she didn't realize her warden was standing right there. The next morning, her father received a call. The disappointment in his voice when he said, "Nisha, come home right now," pierced through her like a knife. At home, her mother's tear-stained face made her feel smaller than ever. "Where did we go wrong?" her mother whispered. But instead of apologizing, Nisha lashed out. "You don't understand me. You never have. Everyone drinks, everyone parties. Stop treating me like a criminal." Her father's silence that day hurt more than any shouting could. The friend who left. The more her habits grew, the more she lost people around her. Ananya, the one person who always stood by her, finally gave up. One afternoon, after catching Nisha lying yet again about borrowed money, Ananya snapped. "You know what, Nisha? I'm done. You're drowning and you're pulling everyone with you. Call me when you actually want to change." For the first time, Nisha felt the sting of true loneliness. The breaking point. It was during the college fest. Nisha had been given responsibility for organizing the fashion show, a chance to prove her talent, but her late nights and carelessness ruined everything. Models complained about missing costumes, sponsors pulled out because of her lack of professionalism, and the event was declared a disaster. That night, as she sat alone in her hostel room, staring at the mess she had created, something inside her broke. The girl who once dreamt of Paris Fashion Weeks was now known as the irresponsible troublemaker. For the first time, Nisha whispered to herself, "What have I become?" A stranger's lesson. Sometimes life sends unexpected teachers. For Nisha, it was Mrs. Sharma, her hostel's old librarian. She was known for her quiet nature, rarely speaking to anyone. One day, noticing Nisha's red eyes and tired face, Mrs. Sharma gently said, "You know, habits are like threads. At first, they're so light you hardly feel them. But keep weaving them every day and soon they become ropes that bind you." Those words hit Nisha harder than any lecture her parents ever gave. The first step back. Change is never easy. For weeks, Nisha fought against her urges. The temptation to sneak out, the craving for cigarettes, the lure of gambling, it all screamed at her. But she remembered Mrs. Sharma's words and forced herself to resist. She deleted her gambling apps. She blocked numbers of people who encouraged her worst habits. She even apologized to Ananya, though Ananya remained distant at first. But Nisha didn't stop trying. Slow healing. Her parents noticed the difference. She came home on weekends, helped her mother in the kitchen, and sat with her father to discuss college work. Slowly, their trust began to rebuild. In college, she took small projects seriously. She sketched designs late into the night, not for Instagram likes but for herself. One day, she gathered the courage to approach Ananya again. "I know I hurt you, but I'm trying to change, Anna. Please don't give up on me now." Ananya looked at her for a long time before hugging her. "I just wanted my best friend back." A new chapter. By the final year, Nisha was no longer the girl known for scandals. She became the student who presented one of the most creative fashion collections her college had ever seen. The applause she received at graduation wasn't just for her designs. It was for her courage to rise from her own mistakes. She knew she still had a long way to go. Habits don't vanish overnight. But now she had the strength to fight them and the wisdom to know that every choice mattered. Moral of the story: bad habits don't start as monsters. They begin as tiny whispers, convincing us they're harmless. But if left unchecked, they grow powerful enough to control our lives. Nisha's journey reminds us that while mistakes are part of being human, it's never too late to choose a better path. 2 years had passed since Nisha Kapoor had rebuilt her life. She was no longer the reckless, habit-driven girl who had once disappointed her parents and friends. Today, she was a rising fashion designer, interning at a prestigious fashion house in Mumbai. Her sketches were praised, her discipline admired, and her parents finally looked at her with pride. But life has a way of testing people, especially those who have once been broken by their own choices. The return of temptation. One evening, after a long day at work, Nisha was scrolling through her phone when she received a message from an unknown number. "Hey superstar, long time. Big party tomorrow at Marine Bay. All our old gang is coming, you can't miss it." Her heart skipped. It was Rohan, one of her old college friends, the same crowd that had once pulled her into cigarettes, gambling, and late-night chaos. She had deleted their numbers years ago, but they clearly hadn't forgotten her. For a moment, her old instincts whispered, "One night won't hurt. You've changed. You can handle it." She put her phone aside, trying to ignore the thought, but the temptation gnawed at her. Ananya's warning. Later that night, Nisha called Ananya, her best friend. "Rohan messaged me. They're having a reunion." There was silence before Ananya replied sharply, "Don't go. You know what happened last time. You worked so hard to come this far, don't throw it away." "I know," Nisha sighed, "but part of me wants to prove I'm stronger now, that I can face them without slipping back." Ananya's voice softened. Sometimes proving yourself isn't about walking into temptation. It's about walking away from it. Nisha promised she wouldn't go, but promises, she realized, are easy to break when old habits come calling. The party that changed everything. The next night, curiosity won. She dressed elegantly, telling herself she would only stay for an hour, no drinks, no mistakes. When she walked into the luxury club, old memories rushed back. The music, the laughter, the thrill of rebellion. Her old friends welcomed her with cheers. "Look who's here, Miss Designer herself." Rohan grinned, handing her a glass of wine. "I don't drink anymore," she said firmly. "Come on, just one sip, for old times." Her fingers trembled as she held the glass. She wanted to say no, but surrounded by the crowd that once defined her, she took a sip. And just like that, the rope she thought she had cut began tightening again. The trap. One drink turned into three. Someone suggested a poker game. The old thrill returned, and she found herself at the table playing recklessly. Hours slipped by. By the end of the night, she had lost not just money, but something far greater, her control. When she stumbled back to her apartment at dawn, guilt crashed over her. She had lied to Ananya, broken her promise to herself, and reopened a door she had sworn to keep closed. The price of one night. The next morning at work, she struggled to focus. Her boss, Mrs. Mehra, noticed immediately. "Nisha, are you all right? Your designs look rushed." "Yes, ma'am, just tired," she lied. But mistakes multiplied. Deadlines were missed. Clients complained. Within weeks, her reputation at the fashion house began to slip. To make matters worse, Rohan kept texting her. "Another party tonight? You were the star last time." At first, she resisted, but the loneliness of her new city, the pressure of her work, and the taste of her old habits pulled her in again and again. Ananya finds out. One evening, Ananya surprised her by visiting Mumbai. She wanted to celebrate Nisha's progress. But when she entered her apartment, she found empty wine bottles on the floor and Nisha passed out on the couch. The disappointment in her eyes was unbearable. "Nisha, not again," Ananya whispered. When Nisha woke up, she saw Ananya's packed bag by the door. "You promised me. You promised yourself. I can't watch you destroy everything again. Call me when you're serious about your life." And just like that, Ananya left. The lowest point. Weeks turned into months. Nisha's internship ended badly. Her boss, who once praised her, told her bluntly, "You're talented, but talent without discipline is wasted. I hope you find your way back someday." With her career slipping and her best friend gone, Nisha spiraled. She avoided calls from her parents, too ashamed to face them. Nights were spent in parties, days in regret. One night, after losing a large sum in gambling, she sat alone by the sea, tears streaming down her face. "Why am I like this? Why can't I change?" That's when a familiar voice spoke. It was Mrs. Sharma, her old librarian, visiting Mumbai for her nephew's wedding. She spotted Nisha by chance. "You again," Mrs. Sharma said gently, sitting beside her. "Didn't I tell you once about threads becoming ropes?" Nisha broke down. "I tried, ma'am, I really did, but I failed. I'm not strong enough." Mrs. Sharma looked at her with kind eyes. "Falling is not failure, child. Failure is refusing to get up after the fall. Do you want to rise again?" Through her sobs, Nisha whispered, "Yes." The hardest battle. This time, Nisha didn't try to fight alone. She joined a support group for young women struggling with addictions. She confessed her mistakes to her parents, who, though hurt, stood by her. The hardest part was reaching out to Ananya. At first, Ananya ignored her calls, but one day she answered. "I don't know if I can trust you again, Nisha." "I don't want you to trust me right now," Nisha admitted. "I just want you to see me trying." That honesty touched Ananya's heart. Slowly, their friendship began to heal. A second chance. Months later, Nisha applied for a small local fashion competition. She poured her soul into her designs, staying away from every distraction. When the results were announced, she won second place. It wasn't the top prize, but for Nisha, it was a symbol, proof that she could rise again. Her parents, sitting in the audience, clapped with tears in their eyes. Ananya, too, stood by her side, whispering, "This is the Nisha I always believed in." The lesson she learned. Nisha realized that bad habits never truly disappear. They wait, lurking in the shadows, ready to return when weakness creeps in. But this time, she knew the secret. Strength wasn't about never falling. Strength was about choosing every single day to rise again. And so Nisha walked forward, not as the flawless girl she once pretended to be, but as a woman who had embraced her flaws, fought her battles, and learned that true beauty lies not in perfection, but in resilience.